we live amongst a large population of human beings and a technological society filled with competition and greed, pollution is inevitable. Our fast-paced, consumeristic lifestyles has led to our environment deteriorating. Inorganic fertilizers are destroying the world we live on. The toxic chemicals that come from inorganic fertilizers are ruining our water and soil. Even though inorganic fertilizers are bad for our environment, half the world is alive today because of the increased food production fueled by inorganic fertilizers. So without these fertilizers, U.S. farmers wouldn't be able to produce enough food to feed the world. But without regulating the amount of inorganic fertilizers put on the commercial crop fields and acknowledging the environmental impacts it has, future generations might be endangered. I'm going to explain 2 ways why inorganic fertilizers are bad for the environment. The first way is it's bad for our water, and that's the process of eutrophication. Eutrophication is when there's too much nutrients in a water source, and that nutrients is coming from the chemicals from inorganic fertilizers that run off into storm drains. So imagine a neighborhood, like a good-sized neighborhood, and they all have lawns and plants, and a lot of people are using those chemical fertilizers to make their front backyard look all pretty and nice. What they don't realize is when the sprinklers come on in the morning, half of that fertilizer is being run off into storm drains. And those lead to ponds, lakes, estuaries, and eventually dump into our oceans. So that's bad because when all these nutrients come into like a lake, all the aquatic life around it and all the algae use that nutrition to sprout up. But once all that artificial nutrients is gone, everything dies off and it depletes the oxygen levels in the water. And that makes fish species, they can't survive, and it makes marine mammals move. And an example I used last beach was the Gulf of Mexico, was a major dead zone. That's not the only one. There's 400 major dead zones in the world now, and they're doubling every 10 years. And that came from Bina Catamaran, the author from New York Times. And our water isn't the only thing that's being polluted. Our soil is also being polluted. The excess amount of inorganic fertilizers that is like dumped onto commercial crop fields is depleting the trace minerals that we need in our bodies and that plants need to grow strong and stay healthy. They did a test from 100 years, and they said that in the U.S. alone, all the crop fields in the U.S. alone, 85% of those trace minerals have been depleted out of our soil. They're never going to come back. So the question, well, that came from Dr. William Outridge, the chairman of the Department of Soil at the University of Missouri. But the question is, why don't farmers put more minerals into their soil to make their crops more nutritious for us so we can stay healthy? Well, farmers, they aren't worried about producing maximum nutrition in their crops. They're worried about producing maximum harvest yields so they can make the most money. And it's not until the public's educated on mineral depletion in our soil until the public demands for fully nutritious food. So, with that said, the earth that we live on, the air that we breathe, the soil that we use to grow crops and eat, the water that we drink, the water that marine mammals live in are all seriously at risk because of these inorganic fertilizers. Farmers need to stop using inorganic fertilizers and start thinking about the people, animals, and our environment. That's it.
Thank you, Stephen. So, test question.